Playing in the last year of his deal, reports say maybe $60 million he might get. But do you think that the man who the Cowboys drafted in the 4th round, has been there for 8 years now, has had a lot of success on and off the field, though he hasn't won the big one, you think Dak Prescott should take a hometown discount?
No. Why the hell should he do that? You're a businessman. You get this stuff. And answer me seriously. And I get the report says maybe $60 million. If Dak Prescott wants to make $60 million, he's going to do it. That is a certainty. Again, this is a man who doesn't have a franchise tag. They can't tag him. They can't keep him in Dallas if he doesn't want to be there. If he hits the open market, it's going to be $60 million. And why the hell should he take less? If you want to tell me that Dak Prescott signing for top of the market right now, so Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow are making $55 million a year. If you want to tell me he should sign for that, if we want to call that a hometown discount, we can talk. But if we're talking about taking less than top of the market, why on earth should he, after the career he's put together and how difficult the Cowboys have made it on him to cash in? I'm not asking rhetorically. I would love an answer. Why should he?
He shouldn't. But he might for this reason. You know Dak Prescott, I would suggest, better than anybody on national television because you were there when he got drafted. So you've known Dak Prescott since he was literally a youngin' to now that he, I think, is pushing 30, if not over 30 years of age.
Right at the mark.
What we know about Dak is this. He's always been too nice to the Cowboys. Dak Prescott allowed the Cowboys to pay the running back before him. Dak Prescott was the star quarterback for the Cowboys, and they franchise tagged him. He ain't hold out. But Cowboys, I'm sure after you franchise tag him, you'll pay him. Nope. They franchise tagged him again. So much so that while playing on the tag, he breaks his leg. And then finally, after 6 grueling years, I say grueling because for a quarterback, that's a long time to go without being paid, where you walk into the league, you were an MVP finalist your first year, you got a vote. You were 13-3, you got a bye because back in the day, 2 teams got a bye. You were the 1 seed, and they made him work for it. They making him work for it again. Cooper Rush starts about 4 games, and Jerry Jones says, you know, I hope we have a quarterback competition.
It's been such a long road, hasn't it? Just naming all this stuff.
So he's always been nice to the Cowboys. Do you suggest that he would change his behavior, and if so, why?
I don't see why he should. And you were getting to it, but they're doing it again. Remember, I just said, Dak Prescott, I remember asking him about it when he signed his deal. He got a no-trade clause and a no-tag clause. I said, is that pretty important to you? And he grinned at me. He's like, yeah, it's pretty important to have that kind of leverage. He has worked a long time to have the leverage that he has. And the Cowboys have known they would be in this situation. The deal got signed in March or April of 2021. It's June of 2024. This has been 3 years coming. Dak is getting ready for the final season of this deal, and he doesn't have a deal. The Cowboys are once again sending a message of like, do we want to do this? Is this guy worth the contract? Meanwhile, and look, I say it every time I come on TV. If you're bummed out about Dak's playoff track record, I get it. The standard is high in Dallas, but the all-pros, the 36 regular season wins, the statistics, this is the cost of high-caliber quarterback play. And if I were Dak Prescott, I do not blame him one bit if he feels undervalued by a team that has made so much off of, again, relatively so little. I know the guy makes a ton of money right now. You're still talking about pick 135 in the 2016 draft. Made relative pennies for the first 5 years of his career. Did the Cowboys capitalize on that? Did they maximize on it? Absolutely not. I knew we were going to talk about this today. I spent time looking at it. You realize this is a team that is regularly at the bottom of cash spending in the NFL. Basically, when they're not paying Dak Prescott, they're down in the second half toward the bottom of the league. They are last in the league this year in cash spending because we know they haven't signed Dak. We know CeeDee Lamb is sitting out there unsigned. We know Micah Parsons hasn't gotten signed. This team doesn't spend money when they aren't paying Dak. Why would he take any less of that money?
I'm going to ask you a question that I believe only you are fit to answer, because this question isn't something that you can Google. This is something that you would have had to be in the Cowboys practice facilities. You would have had to have talked to Dak Prescott. You have had to have read his interviews, not just one, but throughout his career in order to answer. Dak Prescott has proven to not have it in him to ruffle feathers. not have it in him. Like, he does not like kicking up dust.
He's diplomatic.
He's the most diplomatic quarterback that we have seen in God knows how long. I mean, he does not have it in him to ruffle feathers, Dave Hellman. He cussed one time in a post-game presser, and all hell broke loose. Remember, he blamed the fans. He said that, I'm glad the fans.
He blamed the referees,
Blamed the refs for a loss. That's the one time in his 8 years, and we lost our minds. He's diplomatic. He don't like kicking up dust. Do you foresee him kicking up dust? Because in order to get $60 million, Cowboys ain't just going to hand it to him. He's going to have to do something he's never done, and that's kick up dust. You think he'll change his spots?
No, and that's the beauty of it from Dak's perspective. And remember, you and I, we do that. Like, we text each other when something kind of crazy happens. And Dak had a press conference this spring where he said, I'm not afraid of the future. If it's here, that's awesome. If it's somewhere else, that's the way it's got to be. And you and I both said, that's not Dak. That is not a Dak answer, is it? And Dak knows, again, he worked hard for this leverage. He did the franchise tag. He went through the injury. And he and his agent, Todd France, got a no-tag clause and a no-trade clause. And he's now in a position to cash in on it. I promise you, this is what Dak's going to do. He's going to go to work. He's going to be an example for what is still a relatively young team. You think about the young skill players on this Cowboys offense. CeeDee Lamb is still just like 25 years old. He's going to be an example. He's going to play well. And if the Cowboys don't have him signed by the time training camp's over, he's going to say, bet, let's see how this goes, and somebody's going to be willing to make me the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, whether it's in Dallas or whether it's somewhere else.
I'm trying to think historically. Jerry doesn't really let quarterbacks walk. Romo,
not if he wants them, no.
Aikman retired.
Romo hurt, replaced by Dak, eventually retired. The Cowboys have not parted ways with a quarterback that was playing at a high level voluntarily anytime recently.
Does it happen? Do they part ways?
If Dak isn't, and here's what I think. And the Cowboys, you hear this a lot in Dallas, in the Metroplex, deadlines make deals. There's not an official deadline here, but the deadline is the start of the season. Because, again, once you start playing games, when you very rarely see negotiations play out over the course of the season. And if Dak gets to March, I don't think the Cowboys can keep up. There's a lot of teams with a lot of cap space. Again, it's very real. They do have to pay CD. They do have to pay Micah. If Dak gets to the end of this season, let's just say he has another comparable season to last year. They lose in the playoffs again because that's what they do, right? If he has another season like last year and he knows that they can't do anything about him hitting the market, you think he's going to sign something in January, knowing that somebody will pay him $62 million a year in March? Absolutely not. So the deadline is August. And I bet you the Cowboys will do it because at the end of the day, they're going to blink and say, are we really going to let this guy walk and get nothing but a third-round compensatory pick for it?
They didn't blink the first time. They made him play under the tag once. They made him play under the tag again. They blinked for Zeke.
They still have the control. They got nothing this time. They still had things in their whatever you call it, in their purview that they could do to keep him there. They don't have anything this time around. And I think at the end of the day, Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, the Cowboys brain trust are going to sit down and say, are we really willing to have Trey Lance or somebody comparable be our best bet for a year or two while we figure out what to do? Because let's be real, I say this all the time. They've never had a losing record when Dak Prescott's been healthy. So forget about drafting at the top of the draft. Forget about it. It's not going to happen. Are they going to say, are we really willing to have it be Trey Lance or somebody with even less experience, somebody that we're even less excited about? Again, this is America's team, the most valuable franchise in the NFL. They need visibility. They depend on it. Are they going to be willing to not be an enticing team? The answer is no, and I think they'll blink because of that.
One final question before I let you go. One final question, maybe the most important question. How do we get here? If Dak is as good as you tell me, so since he signed that deal, he's had 3 seasons, 36 wins. I think he's trailing only Lamar Jackson and the likes of Patrick Mahomes, maybe Josh Allen. 3 seasons, 36 wins. He's gotten to the playoffs. He's made noise. He's been an All-Pro. He's been an MVP finalist. How are we here, and why are we here? Why hasn't he already been paid?
I think, because, the standard is high in Dallas. It's about Super Bowls. It's not about getting the playoffs. So you've got a fan base, and it's a huge polarizing team as well. If you don't love the Cowboys, you hate them. So you've got a team that has fallen short in the biggest moments. And to be completely fair, Dak has been a big part of that. Picked a bad time to have one of the worst games of his career against Green Bay in the playoffs. If he'd played better in that game, maybe this wouldn't be a conversation anymore. I don't think that's a stretch. I think that's a part of it. And I think when you're talking about a franchise like this, where that is the standard, I think it's a higher bar to meet. Then again, we talk about Trevor Lawrence getting this deal with a 20-30 record. It ruffled so many people's feathers. That's okay in Jacksonville. It's not okay in Dallas. So